Today's review is mostly going to be spoiler free because I don't want to ruin things, and I feel like a lot of things with this book could be. So this one is book 5 in the Sun Eater series, Ashes of Man by Christopher Ruocchio. I highly recommend that if you haven't started the series at all, that you don't watch this video. Oh, analytics. But check this one out. This is for the first book. And for every book in this series, I have done the review and the reading vlog. And the reading vlogs are way more spoilery, as will be with this one. So you can go check that one out. It'll be linked probably at some point in the video and also down below in the description. There might be weird pauses. Someone was weed eating a little while ago, but I really hope that they have stopped now so we can film this because I don't have a lot of time this morning. I don't remember what I said before. I'm Morgan, and I hope you like this video. Can talk about the Sun Eater in the comments down below, spoiler free of course. And let's go ahead and get started with this review. Something I knew but kind of forgot at the beginning of the book is that book 4 and 5 were split into 2. And so when this actually starts, it starts immediately that same day as book 4 ended. I think even in the same place, like the same hour maybe, or within a few hours of the other one ending. So very quick. And the plot of this one follows Hadrian through grieving, through going to a few different things and a few different battles, but mostly it is him trying to warn the emperor, get the empire to accept the Cielcen threat, and how things have changed. Because the Cielcen are now unified. They are fighting in a more directed manner, I want to say, because Doriaika is sending them out in the best attack plans, specifically looking for the emperor, and he has a specific plan for the emperor or even Hadrian. Especially Hadrian. He wants to get back at Hadrian for what happened. And this one, it takes place over a shorter period of time, I feel, I want to say, than any of the books. Maybe Kingdoms of Death as well took place in a kind of shorter amount of time. It mostly varies from the beginning of it, as they were going to Padmarak and the travel time there and on Nessus. That I feel like that is possibly where it took longer. So over the span of imperial time, this book takes place across fewer years than I feel like any of the other ones did. And this doesn't make it seem faster. To me, at least, it did read like a slower paced book, kind of similar to the first one, because we are just seeing how Hadrian has changed, having him come to these realizations of how his body has changed, his mind, his life, all the grief, all the loss that we felt through the first book, and trying to come to terms with that, even as he does and he doesn't have a lot of time, because some of the time is spent on ice, and that's a different scenario for Hadrian this time around too. That's kind of a spoiler. I'm not going to get into that. As far as action, like several of the other books, it's like throw you right into something happening. And that does not happen here. We have a break of where we're dealing with like the consequences of what happened in the previous book. Like several of the things, like the emotional consequences, and also what they had decided to do by staying with Gibson. Of course, there would be consequences for not directly going back to the empire. Either way. And now we are having to see the playthrough of that, as most of the, galaxy thought Hadrian was dead. For sure, they thought he was dead. And now the stories of the half-mortal are being more put out there, and people are realizing he's not dead. Some people are, quite upset he's not dead. The emperor seems to not be upset, but at the same time, it's different. I feel like their interactions are a bit different in this one. So for me, at least, the pacing felt slower. Yes, we will still have these action scenes, and Hadrian is going to get thrown into the fray again before he's fully processed everything and all his changes. But they're just less a little bit, and it takes longer to get to that. It still went by really quickly. Like the first 150, 200 pages, it went by really quickly. It's just there wasn't anything major happening. So I don't know why it feels slower, but I read it, everything went by really quickly. I couldn't believe I was that far into the book. Hopefully that makes sense. Anything else for the plot? Maybe the fact that he has now let the Empire know that he is alive again, and let them know how much danger the Emperor is in, as the Emperor is on this tour of the outer rims of the Empire, and all the planets that have been sacked, telling him that the Celestian knows, you know, they know where you're gonna be. I was gonna say so, but I know I should stop saying that, but I say that too much. And he's just having Hadrian go up against this system that doesn't understand the threat as much as they think they understand the threat. In this one, I can talk about characters again. I think I actually say it every time that it's Hadrian's point of view, but we get a separate point of view for a minute period of time, yes. But early on at the beginning, right after Hadrian and Valka have gone to let the Empire know they're still alive, it was requested of Valka, well, where were you? We've heard Lord Marlowe's story. Where were you through all of this? How was it that you came to save him? And you get to see Valka's perspective through the time where they were from Padamarak until the rescue, and it is sad. More so because she can put the inflections of certain people's voices, and it gets you in the feels knowing what happened to those people, and her last words on it were that this was the last time I ever saw them. So that was interesting, getting to see it from Valka's perspective. And then of course the rest of the book is in Hadrian's. Unlike Kingdoms of Death, where I felt like the interjections of the future self were very minimal in that one, we do see it more in this one. It's a bit of foreshadowing, and then also a bit of where he takes you out of the story in his future and saying, like, this took me a long time to write, this like particular part I threw in the fire and rewrote it. I almost did that with this whole draft. It's more grouped together though. Like there's foreshadowing early in the beginning of like a specific character that comes up, which I still have not gone back and checked the name of that character to somewhere else that I thought he was connected to. His future self, like where he pulls you out of the story, that's at 2 specific spots where he talks about it. So it's not everywhere, but it does happen, I feel like, more in this one than in Kingdoms of Death. Otherwise, it's just Hadrian in his head as he's going through a lot, obviously. Going through a lot. Other people that showed up a lot in this one would be Bystander Lynn showing up and having to work with Hadrian, and how Hadrian can actually, there's a specific word I'm looking for and I can't find it, but understand is close. Empathize. Yes, more than empathize though. But Hadrian and Lynn are on the same wavelength now, and they're a lot the same in their injuries, and their, you know, Hadrian mentions that they've both been put back together. In Lorien, we get Lorien and Hadrian's not as much interactions on that side as I would like, because I like Lorien's character. I like how smart he is, how he's just better than everyone's expectations because he's an Entis. They look down on him, and how he's just brilliant. And he calls Hadrian out, which I think he only really has ever had that from kind of Valka and Lorien. Polino, you know, would joke with him, but I don't think Polino ever really called him out quite so much as like Lorien. The world building of this series is why it feels so sci-fantasy, kind of is, I suppose, but it's always been one of my favorite things, and how the richness of it, and we're slowly finding out more as we go along. In this one though, the focus is on other things, so I understand. I wish it wasn't, but I understand. And so what we get though is more kind of history than world building. We just find out that the Empire kind of, you know, they knew more than we thought they knew. And I'm going to mention that in my little bit of spoiler that I'm going to do, because one, it bugs me. We just find that out though, that there are things that have been purposefully hidden, have been suppressed, or they know, and it's just, But it was just a bit more history scope given than world building to find out truly new information. The feeling through the whole book though was one of like foreboding. And yes, we are dealing with grief, so there's a whole lot of talk of grief and loss and change, and how aging even. How Hadrian's realizing he's not a young man anymore, and seeing himself reflected in an actual young man right now, and who has this outlook towards the world that Hadrian used to have, and just having to deal with this, kind of mirror back at yourself. But a whole lot of the book is just foreboding, and as like something's going to happen. Even if we are moving slowly, I know something's going to happen. I can feel it, setting it up. So some of the topics we move through really fast, but I'm not sure how much to say about those. There could be more. I don't even know how long I've been talking. Our little bit of spoilers though is what we'll get into now, so go ahead and skip over it. or watch it, or, click to the blog where it's a lot of bit of spoilers. The thing that bugged me about finding out that historical information is a specific group of the government, kind of. It's called HAPSIS, and they are the ones that are like archaeological research that are controlled by the government. They go to sites where the Empire has found evidence of the Quiet or the Watchers. The Emperor told Hadrian, we don't believe that it was one elder race. We believe it was several. These ruins, everybody says, is for the Quiet. There's really, several different things. Which I wonder when he came up with this exactly. Not the Emperor, Ruocchio. Because, Valka researched into it a lot. And like Hadrian mentions that this would crush Valka since she spent so much of her life working on this. And she wasn't the only one. I don't quite understand how no one else could have put that together. I understand that the information was kind of suppressed by HAPSIS, and they actually did find a Watcher body. And now the Emperor, well, he doesn't really chime in on it, whether or not he believes it's a deity. But the Chamberlain does. He's like, these aren't deities. These are just extraterrestrial beings. Ancient extraterrestrial beings. But the Dreamer, being a corpse, not even a corpse, being bones, and still being able to mentally mess with Hadrian? So, but true, they could just be ancient super beings that transcend time, space. Obviously the Quiet does. Just finding this out, and I question, when the Emperor really wanted to get rid of Hadrian, I guess, yes, he thought him useful, he thought he had this connection. Why didn't he send him there, though? This is already an undercover thing where not many people know about it. He theoretically couldn't have gotten into too much public view. I just feel like maybe he would have been out of the public eye a little bit more. Yes, there could have still been men, but they would have all been like in the secret, they couldn't talk about it kind of thing. So even if people witnessed it, they're part of this select group, so they can't talk about it. And also that, of course they've been using the Chantry to control and suppress information. That's not really new news. And I said it in the review, in the vlog, and I'll say it here. The Emperor is definitely it seems like he knows Hadrian so well that he's pulling these strings when they're having specific public meetings to have him act a certain way. But then at the end, I don't understand. He's so smart. Why did he do that? Did he not expect Hadrian maybe to lash out in that manner? Did he expect him to break down in grief too much? He should have had a private meeting with Hadrian first to judge Hadrian's mental state, or had Lynn talk to him before calling him in front of the whole court again. Unless that was the ultimate goal, which I just don't see to what end. Because he doesn't want to dispose of Hadrian. He's had Hadrian under his protection. He's tried so much to keep Hadrian alive and from assassination. And I don't understand to what end that would have served. And the foreshadowing feelings I was having through the book proved to definitely be right, and yet I don't know. It didn't hit me near as hard as all of what we lost in book 4. Okay, that's going to be the end of the spoiler thoughts. To wrap this all up, I really still enjoyed it. It has taken me 3 days since finishing it to try to write the review, to try to get my head around really how I feel about it. And so that's going to take half a star from it, because it's just, I don't know, and maybe that's not the right reason, but it's going to be a 4.5 stars because it's conflicting, I suppose. It's still really good and an important part to what's happening into the narrative overall. Like a very important thing happened. I would say probably not to the universe overall, except because of Hadrian being what he is going to be, it does affect the universe overall. And I'm very curious to see how we're going to now go into Disquiet Gods and how that's going to play off. It was still a very solid read. I just did not maybe feel that they didn't feel as impactful as the last book. The amount of trauma and grief that the last book puts upon Hadrian and the reader. And then this one was a lot of, he's trying to grieve, he's trying to go through this, but he's also having to do this job. Very nervous then to get to the next ones. I'll have to read Dregs of Empire, and then I guess Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3. I want to start that one the first week of June, but I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. We'll find out. If you've read any of this series, I would love to know your thoughts on it down below. If you've caught up to this one, or past this one even, just how it's going for you, what sticks out to you, what's your favorite part, any of the things. I really hope you liked this video, and if you did, you can check out some of my other ones and subscribe. That way you can see all the new ones, like the Disquiet Gods review and reading vlog next month. I hope you're having an awesome day and finding something great to read. I'll see you in the next one.